So I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and here's what happened. I had just finished teaching on proclaiming the gospel to people from different cultures, and this person began to ask me about how to reach her friend who is a Buddhist. Her Buddhist friend. She's American, and she's a Buddhist. And according to this person, her friend is the kindest person she knows. And they've been friends for a long time, but she has never presented the gospel to her Buddhist friend. Only parts of her testimony, she said. Bits and pieces here and there. Now her friend, being Buddhist, yes, is very nice, but also believes that everyone's okay, that all ways lead to happiness, and what matters most is the kindness we show to each other. And so she asked if I had any insight about how to reach her Buddhist friend. And I began by asking her a question. I asked, how do you think you would most honor Christ in this situation? How do you think you would most honor Christ in this situation? And she thought about it for a minute and she said, demonstrate? Well, I asked her what she meant by demonstrate, and this is what she said. Well, I feel like God told me just to be Jesus to her. I feel like God told me just to be Jesus to her. How would you respond? There are a few problems with this statement. The thing is, when a Christian begins living and believing based on how they feel, rather than by what God has clearly revealed in His Word, can lead to confusion and uncertainty. Heading to a meeting here this morning. I feel like God told me just to be Jesus. I feel like God told me. The other thing is, when a Christian begins feeling like God is speaking to them without checking what they've heard against what God has clearly revealed in His Word, can really lead to a lot of wrong ideas. It can lead to forms of mysticism, and from that point on, it really becomes a slippery slope. Okay. Meeting time. More to come. Meeting's over. Just had lunch with Mr. John Thar.
And Mana.
Here's Mana.
Hey!
She makes the best shawarma wraps in Clarkson.
This side of the Mississippi.
Thank you. Love y'all.
It was delicious. Final issue with I feel like God told me just to be Jesus comes from the fact that when Christians feel like God told them just to be Jesus, they think that they're capable of being Jesus. What happens is we end up ignoring all of the biblical commands and examples to open our mouth and speak the truth, even if it risks our relationship. Anyway, I was able to pray with this person and encourage them and tell them that Jesus calls us to risk our relationships for the sake of the gospel. And we honor Christ by telling the truth. We dishonor our friends by holding the truth back from them, by keeping to ourselves what we know they need to hear. How would you respond? Tell me your thoughts in the comments of this video. we're doing now, see, the way we do things in the Clarkston City area is we tackle apartment complexes and we put people in there and we do evangelism and we knock on doors and we preach the gospel, seeking to plant a church among the nations who live there. Right now I am entering a new apartment complex. I will not mention the name because of privacy and who cares. I'm exploring this place to see what it looks like, get the feel for it, what kind of people are here, and thinking about starting to do some door-to-door gospel proclamation in this place. Oh look, a fire truck. I just got the baby to sleep. I totally understand that we are meant to live Christ-like lives, lives that are radically different from the world. And by God's grace, I am being sanctified, slowly but surely. But trying to live like Jesus is not a substitute for speaking about Jesus. These things will go together. Now we're going to be Jesus to people by preaching Jesus to them like Jesus did because Jesus told us to. I think we're at a Jennifer Lopez concert, whoever that is. Hey Bobby, how would you respond to someone who says, I feel like God told me just to be Jesus to people?
Well, I mean, there's a bunch of problems with that statement. One, we don't go by feelings, because of, the flesh is deceptive. The flesh wages war against the spirit within us. I feel like God told me, well, I'd say, well, where did he tell you that? Because God speaks to us through his word. There's variations of that saying, right? Let people see Jesus in you. I'm just going to be Jesus, stuff like that. Well, the problem with that statement is, if you think people are going to see Jesus in you, then they're going to have a horribly distorted, weak, awful picture of who Jesus is. Because how I